Welcome back, everybody. I'm very excited for today's topic. It's not something I've talked about a great deal. It's relevant to every single human being, and that is anger and aggression. It's a really important topic. So, anger is an extremely important emotion. And so, this is going to be very valuable if you feel angry or even just irritable or frustrated on a regular basis or on a consistent basis, or if you have someone in your life who tends to express anger or aggression in their, it does, aggression's a big word, but it might be microaggressions on the regular. That's a sign of something about anger that you need to understand, and it will really help you know what to do if you are experiencing that yourself or taking it from another person. So let's just jump right in. Anger is one of the most important emotions you can feel. So if you feel it, you want to pay attention to it. We need this emotion. What it does is it is helping us define what we are and what we are not. It is helping us get a sense of boundaries that need to be in place and a self-awareness about what we are here for and what we are not here for. It is telling us that with a loudspeaker. If something makes us angry, it's because of one of two reasons. The first one, the most common one, is that something is not fair. And then the second one is it's coming up because something is not right. Okay. Now, I'm going to change those words just a little bit. It's very important. Something feels not fair or something feels not right. The reason I'm saying feels is because we always have to do a reality check. If we are angry, really raging, really, thrown off by anger, we might very well be triggered. Nothing wrong with that. But a trigger can amplify the situation and even sometimes falsify the situation because it can make us feel the way we used to have to feel that we decided we never wanted to feel again, and it can throw off our reality. So the first step if you're feeling any anger is to go ask yourself, does something feel not fair and does something feel not right? And if it's really, truly, yes, that is not fair, then you know that that anger is your best friend. It is there to tell you, you are not supposed to be treated that way. So then once you know that, it's easy to handle anger in a way that gives you the gift without creating a whole bunch of problems and a domino effect of damage that hurts other people, that hurts other people, that hurts other people. We don't want to do that. We want to use anger to get the lesson, evolve us into our next level and live more peacefully and joyfully. So when something feels not fair, then we have one job to do: make it fair. Now that sounds really simple, and it is simple. It's just not easy to do. I'll explain that. So if something feels not fair and you are angry and you realize, okay, this isn't fair, how do I make it fair? Without doing harm, without insulting, without screaming, yelling, or throwing, you can make something fair. So here's an example. One day I came home and my children had come home first, and there was every cupboard in the kitchen open, sweatshirt thrown on the couch, just a mess in the main room where you walk in. And I just was aware that it was making me angry. And I thought about it. Like, why does this feel not fair to me? I know they're not trying to be jerks. I know my teenagers. And then it didn't feel fair because I realized that all day long I was thinking about my children. I knew that one of them had a big test, and I was like sending them, good vibes on the test and texts about the text and encouragement and love. And I was carrying them and thinking about them, and all while doing all the things I did. And then I came home, and to see this just felt like, they're not even thinking of me for 1 second, let alone caring for me. This is the room that presents. It's nice to come home from a full day and just have that place welcome you. And they know that I prefer that. And we just don't throw things everywhere. So I figured, how do I make this fair? So I just simply called them to the living room and I said, this feels not fair to me. I want to say why. I've been really thinking about you guys today, and I shared what I just shared with you. And then I come home and I walk into this after working hard all day, and It just feels disrespectful. It feels like no one ever thought of anyone. We're just going to do what I want to do in the moment and not even give a single thought to anyone else. And so I'm going to go to the cafe. I'm going to spend about an hour with my journal and have a cup of tea and just sort of reduce some of the stress that I'm feeling. And I would like you to clean up everything that's out, close all the cupboards, and in addition, do a couple of extra things. I'd like you to vacuum the stairs. I'd like you to do the cat litter, and I'll be back in an hour. And I left. I went to the cafe. I had a wonderful time journaling and having a cup of tea. And I stayed until I felt good. It wasn't even that long, 45 minutes. I felt all better. This felt right. Like, yeah, this is how I should be treated. And then I just went home. And I didn't have any point to prove or anything to do because it was fair. I came in, the house was the way that it should have been all along. They were a tiny bit, watchful to see if I was grumpy or not, which I wasn't. And then we all had dinner together and they learned a lesson. It just made it fair. It never happened. I mean, I don't know, it never happened again, but it didn't happen again in the same way. So whenever something feels not fair, we just have to make it fair for ourselves, knowing that we can't control other people. And I couldn't control my children either. They could have not done it, but they felt inside that it was correct, it was right to do, and they did it. We have to know that we can't control other people and make them do things, but we can make it fair for ourselves. And that sends a message out to all the people around us that this is how you treat me. If we ignore our anger and just give ourselves away to make peace in the house for someone else's sake, then we become a doormat and we teach them to treat us that way more, and they will. That's how it works. So if I feel angry because of the way someone's treated me and I just ignore that and go, oh, I'm making too much of a big deal, he probably didn't mean it, whatever, I am teaching them that they can do that to me again, and they will. It is how it works. It's not because people are evil. It's because they will default to the lowest work they have to do that someone allows them to do. After teaching for 17 years, I know that's true. Students, if you don't have deadlines for assignments, will not turn them in until they have a deadline. If there are no guidelines, they'll do what they think is the right amount to do. And so it's how human nature works. So the first concept is, if it feels not fair, just make it fair without doing harm. And you will watch how everything around you will start to treat you differently. Okay. So this is all, back to that your inner guidance system is there for a reason, and anger is there for a reason. Now let's go to if something feels not right. That is an equally valuable emotion. That is not right. That's telling you it's time to stand up for something and against something. Okay. And that's a really important thing. It's growing you into a person who knows what your principles are, what is important to you, what you really have passion and commitment to, and what you are not willing to tolerate. And so those are really important pointers too. I specifically remember when I felt this very feeling, and it was in college when I was playing volleyball, and we went on this road trip. I believe it was in New York. Might have been. It was a big city anyway. And we were told that we could not go out in the evening after we were all done playing. We could not go out and experience anything in the city. We were stuck to our hotel rooms. So that was fine. We did that until we heard that the coach had taken several of the upperclassmen out and not told anyone else, and told everyone else that we can't do anything. And I found out about it. And that was not right. And I knew it, and I was angry. And I'm like, that is not right to lie and then do something secretly behind everybody's backs. So I sat in the hotel lobby and I waited for them to come back. And I called my mom and was ranting about it and raving about it until he came in. The coach came in, and I confronted the coach, and I looked straight in his eyes. I said, this is not right. And there's nothing you're ever going to do to convince me that it is right. Because I knew it wasn't. And the anger in me kept me up till 12:31 in the morning when they came back. And it had me standing and confronting him so that he would at least see that I wasn't going to take it, just sitting down. If you're going to do that, if you're going to lie, if you're going to deceive, and if you're going to sneak, you're going to have to confront the people that you lied to. I was like 21 at the time, maybe 20, I don't know. But it was a really important moment because it gave me a sense of who I was and what I would not tolerate. And later in that career, when I started to not believe that the program was healthy at all, that helped me stand up to recruits that came in, and I told them, I don't think you should come here. And sometimes going against the grain and being a nonconformist is the right thing to do when conforming doesn't feel truly, legitimately right. So anger is a super important emotion, and we also have distorted it rightfully, understandably. We've distorted it and called it bad names. We've called it bad names. I've used to call it bad names. I used to decide I couldn't be angry because I had seen anger that was out of control and decided that I would never be that. But I didn't know at the time that anger was super important to me. So if you've been a victim of anger out of control, you probably have swung the pendulum too far and decided, I won't get angry. Well, that is making you not a full human being. It's not anger that's the problem. It's that when people don't know how to handle anger, they go over a line into abuse and misuse and mistreatment. And if that's happened to you, then I want you to give yourself permission again that you get to be a whole human being and you get to feel angry. But with what I'm talking about here, you'll now know what to do with it that doesn't cause harm. It does not hurt on purpose. It does not intentionally damage. It's just taking the signal that anger is there to give you to become the person you're supposed to grow into. So anger is beautiful. It's just misused. Now, let's say that you're a person who hasn't known what to do with anger, and now you realize, oh my gosh, I have let my anger hurt and harm and damage. Okay, forgive yourself. You just now learned what to do. If you didn't know before, you had this rush of emotion and you didn't know what to do with it, so you damaged. Okay, we all do damage until we know better. We've all done things that we are ignorant, and so we caused harm. And then later we go, oh my gosh, how could I do that? Well, because you were ignorant. You didn't mean to. It just, you didn't know what else to do. And it took you over. So start forgiving yourself right now. And the best way for you to now handle it is to just make it fair and stand up for what's right without doing harm back. Okay? When I confronted that coach, I didn't do harm. I just spoke the truth. I didn't even call names. I just said the facts. There's no way you're going to convince me there's anything right about this, and you will not change my mind. And I just looked him straight in the eye. And I looked at the person I did not respect, and he got to see that I don't respect it. That's all. That's all I needed. I wasn't going to change it. I wasn't in charge. So, but it did change me into something later. So now let's talk about, what if you are the target of aggression? What if someone in your life hasn't handled anger well and you love them, but you keep getting affected by their anger? And anger and aggression can be small things that just seem to keep happening. They can be little digs at you and you don't know why that has to keep happening. It can be little things they say that make you wonder, are they being kind or not kind? It's not always violence and physical abuse and those kinds of things, although that could be happening too. But I want to talk about aggression in the largest, most general sense of aggression. Aggression is relief for them. Aggression is them relieving themselves of suppressed anger that they don't know what to do with. That is all that it is. That person is not evil or a jerk. I mean, they're acting like one. I get it. Their behavior's not good. And yes, there are definite times you absolutely have to have boundaries around aggression. 100%. That's why you feel this isn't fair. But let's talk about the person who is aggressive in a small way, a medium way, or a large way. It's just them relieving themselves on you. They're relieving themselves on you. How does that sound? Gross. Right, because we don't want to be treated that way. So that's repulsive. They're relieving themselves on you. I want you to be repulsed by it because you don't deserve it. That repulsion's there for a reason. Because aggression is them relieving themselves on you so that they'll feel better. And there's a very good reason, because they have suppressed anger. They have anger that they had from a long time ago that they never got to voice. They were taught that they can't be that. So go to their room, go to your room with that. We don't want to hear it here. So they didn't grow up in a healthy household where we can feel anger and then have loving people help you know what to do with it. Not their fault. So now it's all stacked up. They don't feel safe to let it go. They'll be afraid they'll lose love if they do. So it builds up and they need relief. So people who have that suppressed anger, when life gets difficult, when they have some confrontation, they'll take it and run with it. Oh, really? And they will rear up and take the opportunity to relieve themselves in a conflict that releases steam out of their bodies that has been building up. If that is happening to you, around you, it is not your fault. And it's honestly not their fault. So what do we do with it? Well, what we tend to do doesn't work. What we tend to do is they relieve themselves and then they feel better and then they apologize and we accept the apology and we go back to normal for a while. For a while. But inevitably, it comes back around and it happens again and we do it again. It happens, there's a blow up, there's an apology, there's a discussion, then it all calms down and we go back to normal. Okay, this will go on indefinitely because the relief, allowing the relief and then just going back to normal means that we're on a cycle. And it never causes the person with the suppressed anger to go, you know what? I've got to deal with this. They get their relief from you. So they never have to. This is why boundaries are so important, because when we feel relieved on by someone and we feel like that's not right, it's absolutely not right. But then when we just let it go, we're perpetuating the cycle. It feels like the right and loving thing to do, but it's not, because it perpetuates the problem and it continues to have you being treated this way. So what actually has to happen is that person needs to escalate. They need to not be relieved on us. They can't get their relief from us anymore. And that's why that anger pops up in us like, you know what? I'm not doing it anymore. Yeah, that's right. Because we're not supposed to be treated that way. So when we then finally say, we're not going to do it, then they, instead of getting relief, they get escalation. It gets worse. It gets worse because now they don't have the relief. It's building. This is what needs to happen. Because when they relieve it on us, on others, it's easy for them to just justify it away. So, you know, I'm a really good person. I just every once in a while have these things. And so they never have to look at, oh my gosh, I've got an issue. With never looking inside and saying, oh my gosh, I have an issue, it keeps happening. And over time, it will get worse. So it's better to remove ourselves from the ability for them to relieve themselves on us and put up a very clear, solid boundary against that. And then they don't get the relief and they escalate. When that happens, it doesn't seem loving, but it is. And here's why. The spotlight shines on the issue itself. When somebody escalates, now they're getting more out of control. And you, if you're in the room, can go, oh my, what's happening? What's happening? By not relieving it, they're now seeing what the anger is without its relief. And there's nowhere else to look but on themselves. That's what it requires for someone to see, I have an anger issue. I have suppressed anger that I need to deal with it. They're not a bad person. Their behavior is terrible. But when they can see it in the absence of anything else relieving it, they can only look at themselves, which needs to happen. It is not their fault that the anger is there, but until they realize I have an anger problem, it's going to perpetuate. So that moment is the moment they'll say, I've got to get some help. We all have that moment in our lives. I can't do this by myself. Every human being who's paying attention as they're going through life has that moment where I can't do this by myself. Seemingly, me left to my own devices escalates into damaging anger or me, left to my own devices, keeps, perpetuating self-doubt, and I can't make a relationship work, or whatever it might be, or even smaller patterns. We all reach that point. And if someone with aggression reaches the point of escalation, that's the only opportunity they have for seeing that they need to do something about it. Now, the beautiful thing is, it's just suppressed anger. That's all it is. It's not their fault. They're not a bad person at their core. Really, the only time that someone can really, truly be called a bad person, if we ever even want to do that, is if they continue to go into denial and it gets worse, and then they go into denial and it gets worse, and they never just look and go, oh my gosh, I have an issue. They are perpetuating problems in this world. That's what's happening as a result of their unwillingness to look and be vulnerable. But at their core, it doesn't mean they're evil. It just means that evil's perpetuating because they will not go inside because they're afraid of what's in there. That's a longer conversation for another time. But when it comes to aggression, that person is not inherently bad. They have suppressed anger, and unless and until they deal with it, you don't want to be around them. Once they deal with it, they can heal it. Now, let's talk about damage. When damage is done, when harm has been done, when someone has purposely hurt you emotionally or physically or whatever, there are some black and white rules about that. And it gets really messy with people because we care about each other, whether we've got issues or not. And then we take on too much of the responsibility, and we think that maybe if I'm loving enough, we can help heal them, and that doesn't work. And then anyway, on and on, it gets so messy, but I want to make it simple. When someone does damage and harm to another person, there's only one way that gets fixed. There's only one way. That is, the person who did the damage and the harm has a realization that they need help. They go get help. And then at some point, they come back and they can say to you, I did damage to you and I harmed you, and you absolutely can close the door in my face. You have every right to reject me because I mistreated you and did harm. However, I can explain to you why I did, what was going on, how I've grown out of that, why I'm not that way anymore. I can explain to you the path that I took that has now made me this other kind of person. And I can prove to you, if you are willing to give me a chance, that I am not that person anymore, and I will never be. It won't be completely black and white, but I can promise you that I'm going to continue on the journey I'm on, and I'm going to get better and better and better and better at it. And I'd like to ask you if you could consider A, forgiving me, and or B, possibly giving me another chance to repair it over time. Now, the person who is harmed and damaged has every right to say no. So the ball is completely, the onus to make this better is completely on the person who did the harm. But if there's enough love and enough convincing of what they've told you is true, they can answer every question. They can truly explain what ignorance they were operating under that they weren't aware of, that they now became aware of, and now they have tools in place to watch for that and grow out of it over time and blah, blah, blah. If it all makes sense to you who were damaged and harmed, it's up to you. Your heart will know if it's a yes or a no, and under which conditions it's a yes or a no. So if you feel like, whew, that's scary to let you in again, but man, that's one convincing thing you've shared. Everything in me can make complete sense of that, and I can't help but believe you, then it can be a yes for you. But it would be wise to put some parameters around it. So how about we start really slow and we go on 1 date a month? And then if that goes well, then we'll incrementally bring it in closer. And so over a long stretch of time, I can see if it proves to be true. Now, if this person then is impatient and no, I want it back to the way that it used to be before, that they didn't change. Like they said, immediately it's like, okay, no, never mind. But if they're willing to put in the time and do it slowly like that, then they probably have changed into that. And you're safe anyway to put those safeguards up. So if you are aggressive to people, just know there's nothing wrong with you. deep down at your core, it's that you have suppressed anger. And if you ask yourself, what feelings was I not allowed to feel? You'll find something. What could I be angry in my house? Oh no, I'd get whacked. Okay, well, great. Where did the anger go? Right down inside of you. Because if you were ever angry, you got hit. That's why you have this aggression. Okay, if you are aggressive, you can think back and there will be something in your story that showed you that's why you became this way, and it's still trying to get out of you. It's totally healable, and it doesn't have to take years. Okay. If you're being treated aggressively, there are a couple things going on there. One, you don't have enough access to anger to put up boundaries. So that's a separate issue, which has probably attracted you to an aggressive person. You don't deserve it, but you believe you do somewhere, and you don't. And you've not allowed yourself to feel anger either. So in a different way, you just think this is as good as it gets. So you attract this kind of behavior. You don't deserve it, and you don't need to be tolerating that. And if you do start to feel that anger, that's trying to take you out of it and help you put up a boundary so that their aggression can stand alone and they can realize that they need help with that. Okay. All of these things are quite reparable. We can repair these really pretty quickly with hypnotherapy. And I do it all the time. It's a combination of talk therapy and hypnotherapy that gets to the pattern and relieves it in the subconscious where it lives pretty quickly. But even just knowing these things and testing them in your own life will help you. So when anger pops up, know that it's a gift. And when aggression pops up, know that it needs relief because it's not dealing with anger properly. Hope that you found this valuable. I know I love talking about it. I hope it sets you free. I hope it sets you free from some pattern that's been running in your life, because when we're on a merry-go-round, seeing the same things over and over and feeling the same things over and over, life is not meant to be that way. It's there to show you, hey, are you want to do this again? No, you don't. You want to learn what we talked about today, fix it, make it fair, stand up for what's right, put up those boundaries, and get it all fixed and healed as quickly as you can, because there's life out here. There's a life that is so much more enjoyable than a merry-go-round cycle. Thanks for being a part of my audience. Share it with all of your people, subscribe it, like it, and send me a comment. I'd love to hear some feedback from you. All right, take care.